The city park appears quiet at first glance, but stillness in an urban landscape is often an illusion. A wooden bench, weathered by years of rain, heat, and careless graffiti, becomes more than a resting place for passing pedestrians. In the cracks of its planks, in the unseen grooves beneath its rails, a hunter waits. Not a bird, not a rat, not even an ant in its endless march, but a creature barely larger than a fingernail. A jumping spider, a silent predator that turns ordinary corners of the human world into its personal hunting grounds. The bench itself is an ecosystem within an ecosystem. The sugary remnants of spilled soda attract flies, while crumbs from hurried lunches scatter into the gaps, feeding colonies of ants and drawing in opportunists. Trash cans nearby create constant traffic for scavenger insects. For the jumping spider, this means opportunity. It has no need to spin a web between branches or dangle in ambush. Instead, it operates as a solitary stalker, relying on unmatched vision and a body built like a compressed spring to close the gap between predator and prey. Unlike many spiders which live and die within their own silk, the jumping spider uses silk sparingly and strategically. Its world is defined not by waiting, but by moving, by surveying, calculating, and then striking with precision. Its body is short and sturdy, powered by a hydraulic system that pumps blood into its legs to extend them with sudden force. While a grasshopper may use muscle for its leaps, the jumping spider depends on internal pressure, its circulatory system weaponized to launch it many times its own body length. On the wooden rail of the park bench, this design gives the spider a decisive advantage. The smooth grain provides a perfect platform, and the gaps in the planks create natural channels where vibrations can be read like signals. At the core of its predatory mastery are its eyes. 8 in total, arranged in a crown across its head, but not all serve the same purpose. The 2 large, forward-facing principal eyes deliver extraordinary resolution and depth, rivaling the sharpness of birds and even overlapping with certain human visual capabilities. With them, the spider perceives the world in vibrant color, capable of detecting ultraviolet light invisible to our own perception. Around those principal eyes are 6 smaller secondary eyes, positioned to form nearly a 360-degree surveillance system. They do not focus on detail, but on movement. A sudden twitch of a fly's wing or the flick of an ant's antenna will register as an alert, shifting the spider's attention instantly. In an urban park filled with wind-blown leaves, shifting light, and background chaos, this division of labor allows the spider to cut through noise and detect only what matters. From its vantage point on the rail, the spider notices a housefly circling the rim of a trash can. The fly lands briefly, cleans its forelegs, and darts away again, drawn toward the sweet residue of dried soda near the base of the bench. To human eyes, the fly's movements appear erratic and random. To the spider, however, they are not random at all. Each change in direction, each pause, forms part of a predictable pattern. Studies of jumping spider hunting behavior show that they do not simply lunge at the nearest insect in reach. They wait, observe, and compute. Their brains, no larger than a grain of sand, can still map the trajectory of prey, predicting where it will land before committing to a jump. The spider crouches low, muscles tensing, body lowering closer to the bench's surface. It does not leap immediately. Instead, it anchors itself with a single thread of silk, a safety line that serves as both insurance and strategy. Should the jump fail, should the fly evade capture or the landing prove unstable, the spider will not plummet helplessly to the ground. The line arrests its fall, allowing it to climb back, reset, and try again. This detail is more than redundancy. It demonstrates a survival principle. Evolution rarely favors waste, and each adaptation serves multiple roles. The silk lifeline doubles as a map, marking the spider's hunting zone and helping it return to favored sites. The fly lands again, this time on the curved edge of the wooden bench slat, wings twitching in the fading light. The spider freezes, perfectly still, its mottled body blending into the grain. It inches forward, moving in short bursts, careful not to alert its target. At a distance of only a few body lengths, the calculation is complete. In less than a fraction of a second, the spider's forelegs extend, its body launches upward, and the gap is closed in a perfect arc. The strike is surgical. The spider's fangs pierce the fly's exoskeleton, injecting venom that paralyzes and begins liquefying the internal tissues. The prey barely has time to resist before it is subdued. What to us appears as a brief skirmish is, in the insect's scale of time, an ambush years in refinement. Yet the spider's life is not limited to hunting. On the same bench, days later, a different drama unfolds. This time, the stage is courtship. A male spider, smaller than his female counterpart but no less vivid, approaches along the sun-warmed rail. To our eyes, the performance looks like an odd dance: rhythmic leg waves, deliberate steps, and a series of rapid body vibrations that transmit through the wood itself. These signals are not random. They are encoded messages of intent, identity, and health. The bench amplifies the vibrations, much like the hollow body of a guitar enhances sound. The female, perched nearby, interprets the signals through specialized sensors on her legs that detect even the faintest tremor. If impressed, she allows him to approach closer, and the dance intensifies. In some species, males will display flashes of iridescent color or raise their legs like banners, a miniature spectacle of biological theater. But in every case, the risk is enormous. A failed courtship does not end with rejection alone. It can end with the female attacking and consuming the suitor. On the wooden bench, this risk is heightened by the lack of cover, forcing the male to commit fully to his performance. Here, even in the midst of human traffic, the ancient rituals of courtship persist, unchanged from forest to field to city. The jumping spider's success in urban environments lies in its flexibility. Unlike web builders, it does not depend on stable vegetation or large open spaces. A cracked sidewalk, a garden fence, the edge of a bus stop, even the stone ledge of a stairwell, all become viable hunting territories. Where artificial light draws swarms of flies and moths at night, the spider finds food. Where litter provides breeding grounds for gnats and midges, the spider thrives. It is a predator that does not resist the city, but adapts to it. In many ways, the spider represents a quiet triumph of evolution's simplicity. A creature of millimeters that hunts with the calculation of a hawk. A brain so small it could sit comfortably on the head of a pin, yet capable of predicting motion and navigating complexity in a world dominated by giants. Its presence on a park bench reminds us that ecosystems are not only hidden in jungles or oceans. They unfold daily at our feet, in the cracks of sidewalks, in the shadows of trash cans, and on the forgotten rails of a wooden bench. For the jumping spider, the city is not a maze of steel and concrete. It is an endless hunting ground filled with perches, vibrations, and the steady rhythm of prey that never ceases to appear. Where humans see nothing more than a resting place, the spider sees a battlefield of opportunity. One where patience, vision, and timing turn a simple bench into the perfect stage for survival. At the edge of a busy intersection, where exhaust drifts through the air and headlights stutter against the fading glow of dusk, a different kind of signal is displayed. Beneath the bold red face of a stop sign, between its metal post and the nearby lamppost, hangs a structure of astonishing intricacy. To most who pass by, it is invisible. At best, a glimmer in the light, a faint shimmer suspended in the air. But to the insect world, this is a snare of both beauty and danger. It is the web of a golden silk orb-weaver, an ancient design perfected not in forests alone, but adapted now to the angles and airflow of human streets. Unlike the compact ambush tactics of the jumping spider, the golden silk orb-weaver is an architect. Its survival strategy does not depend on chasing prey, but on building an arena where prey inevitably arrives. The web spans wide, sometimes stretching over a meter across, composed of radiating lines anchored to the corners of the sign and the pole behind it. The construction process follows a strict sequence. First, the spider lays the frame threads, the supporting architecture that defines the outer limits. From there, it spins radii, straight lines extending like spokes from a wheel's hub. Only after this skeleton is in place does it begin the delicate spiral of capture silk, the sticky spiral that completes the design and makes it lethal. The name golden silk is not a flourish. In the right light, particularly under sunset or artificial street lamps, the silk glows with a yellow sheen. This pigment is not mere ornamentation. Research suggests that the golden tint alters how light interacts with the strands, reflecting wavelengths in the ultraviolet range. Many insects, particularly pollinators like bees and moths, see ultraviolet patterns more vividly than the colors humans perceive. To them, the web glows like the petals of a flower, mimicking nectar guides that promise a meal. What looks like an empty gap to a passing pedestrian is, to a housefly or moth, an inviting signal, a trick of vision honed over millions of years. Each evening, often just as the last daylight fades, the orb-weaver begins repairs. Unlike some spiders that abandon their webs after damage, the golden orb-weaver actively recycles hers. She consumes sections of older silk, digesting the proteins, and repurposes them into fresh threads. This conservation strategy is critical. Producing silk is metabolically expensive, and in an environment as turbulent as a city street corner, wind, dust, and debris constantly degrade the web's integrity. By eating the old strands and spinning them anew, the spider sustains her trap without wasting resources. To watch her at work is to see an engineer continually optimizing her design, adjusting thread angles and spiral distances with subtle precision. The placement of this web is no accident. Urban airflow is shaped by buildings, vehicles, and the narrow channels between them. Each time a car passes, it displaces air in a burst, creating turbulence that sweeps small insects into the street's corridors. Even without vehicles, heat rising from asphalt generates convection currents that lift and carry flying insects along predictable paths. The orb-weaver's choice of location, stretching her web in the lee of a sign, exploits these currents. The stop sign becomes more than metal. It is a windbreak, a platform where the air funnels insects directly into the web's trap zone. The spider has no need to chase prey. The city delivers it. When contact occurs, the choreography begins instantly. A moth brushes against the sticky spiral, wings beating desperately as silk clings and resists every motion. The spider, waiting at the hub of her web, feels the vibration ripple along the radial lines. Each strand acts as a telegraph wire, transmitting not just the fact of impact, but the frequency of struggle. Through her leg hairs, specialized mechanoreceptors detect the vibrations, distinguishing between a large but inedible leaf fragment and a nutritious insect. Within moments, she darts forward, her long legs navigating her own non-sticky pathways with precision. Her attack is a sequence as efficient as it is elegant. She does not bite immediately. Instead, she uses her legs to wrap the prey in a sheath of silk, circling rapidly as her spinnerets work in constant motion. The wrapping serves multiple purposes. It immobilizes the insect, prevents the loss of valuable wing scales that might reduce nutrition, and makes handling safer. Only after the prey is secured does she deliver her venom. The bite is quick, the fangs piercing the moth's exoskeleton. The venom contains a cocktail of enzymes that begin to liquefy internal tissues, turning solid muscle and organ into a nutrient-rich broth that can be consumed through her narrow mouthparts. To the viewer, this may appear brutal. To the spider, it is survival strategy encoded through evolutionary time. Her venom is not cruelty, but adaptation, a tool designed to digest externally what she cannot process internally. She cannot chew or crush. She must liquefy. And so, the wrapping, the bite, and the waiting are all components of a system honed for efficiency. The nightly cycle continues, web building, waiting, catching, feeding, and repairing. But even here, the city environment adds layers of challenge. Dust coats the threads, reducing stickiness. Artificial light alters insect behavior, sometimes drawing more prey, sometimes diverting it elsewhere. Rain and windstorms can obliterate the structure in seconds, yet the orb-weaver persists. Her ability to rebuild quickly, to recycle silk, and to relocate when necessary ensures her survival. The stop sign snare is not permanent. It is opportunistic, temporary, and adaptable, much like the city's own rhythms. Interestingly, golden orb-weavers are also known for their tolerance of conspecifics. While many spiders are fiercely territorial, these orb-weavers occasionally build webs in close proximity, even allowing smaller individuals to inhabit the outer sections of a larger web. In urban corners, this can create the impression of a colony, multiple webs overlapping near light sources, each spider benefiting from the shared prey-rich corridor. Such loose associations increase the odds of survival in unpredictable environments, an example of cooperation born not from social instinct, but from parallel strategy. What might seem fragile, gossamer strands stretched across a signpost, is in truth one of nature's most resilient designs. Orb webs have remained largely unchanged for over 100 million years. They function as both architecture and hunting tool, balancing tensile strength with elasticity. A strand of golden orb-weaver silk, measured weight for weight, is tougher than steel, while remaining flexible enough to absorb the shock of impact. In the turbulence of city streets, where prey may strike the web with great force, this elasticity is vital. Without it, the web would tear apart. With it, the spider maintains a snare capable of withstanding both moths and the sudden gusts of passing traffic. As night deepens, the stop sign's web becomes nearly invisible again. Only when headlights sweep across it do the strands flash briefly, a golden shimmer that vanishes as quickly as it appeared. Drivers and pedestrians alike pass without noticing, yet for every insect drawn into the streetlight's halo, the web remains a hazard, silent and inevitable. By dawn, the spider will dismantle sections, feed on her catch, and retreat to a sheltered corner behind the signpost. The cycle will begin again at dusk, as it has for countless generations, only now played out against the backdrop of human infrastructure. The golden silk orb weaver demonstrates that adaptation is not about resistance, but about integration. She does not fight against the currents of the city, she bends them to her use. She turns metal, light, and wind into allies, weaving survival from elements never present in her ancestral forests. Her web, suspended beneath a stop sign, is both a relic of deep evolutionary history and a symbol of persistence in the modern world. The city does not erase wildness. It reshapes it, creating niches where predators like the orb weaver can thrive, waiting patiently in the golden geometry of their snares. On the third floor of an aging apartment block, a balcony railing tells a quiet story. Its wood has weathered under years of rain and sunlight, its paint peeling in thin curls, exposing the pale grain beneath. To human eyes, this is simply a sign of neglect, a railing in need of sanding and new varnish. But to another creature, the floor is an invitation. In the pale surface of exposed wood, a nearly perfect circle has appeared. Smooth as if drilled by a tool, it measures no wider than the diameter of a pencil. This is no accident of decay. It is the work of a carpenter bee, a builder that specializes not in gathering materials, but in carving its home directly from the substrate of human architecture. To step closer, one might mistake the entrance for damage from rot or an insect infestation gone rampant. But the carpenter bee is not a destroyer. Its excavation is targeted, its tunnel deliberate. Unlike termites, which consume cellulose for nutrition, carpenter bees use the wood strictly for shelter. They tunnel into dead and often unpainted wood, crafting galleries where their offspring can grow. The balcony railing, overlooked by residents and softened by years of weather, offers the ideal foundation. The bee lands at the entrance, its heavy body and metallic sheen catching the sun, and vanishes into the round portal with practiced ease. Inside, the gallery extends with surprising length. A single female may carve a tunnel, stretching several body lengths into the wood, straight and clean, with side chambers partitioned like rooms in a narrow corridor. Within these chambers, the mother deposits her legacy. She gathers pollen and nectar from nearby flowers, mixes them into a sticky mass known as pollen bread, and packs this provision deep into the cell. Upon the pollen loaf, she lays a single egg, then seals the chamber with chewed wood pulp. The process repeats chamber by chamber until the tunnel resembles a segmented nursery, each larva inheriting its own storehouse of nourishment. From the outside, the railing remains deceptively intact, marred only by the neat circular doorway. But within, a generation of bees is secured, their futures tied to the mother's skill and endurance. Unlike honeybees, which live in colonies and produce surplus honey, carpenter bees are largely solitary. Each female is both queen and worker, builder and provider. Her tunnels are more than architecture. They are time capsules, containing weeks of effort condensed into food, structure, and protection for young that she will never meet as adults. Despite their quiet industry, carpenter bees are often misunderstood. Homeowners sometimes fear that their presence spells destruction, imagining structural collapse from unchecked tunneling. In reality, the bees prefer dead, unpainted, and untreated wood, rarely boring into sound or freshly finished timber. They do not multiply explosively like termites, nor do they consume wood for sustenance. Their impact is local and precise, small galleries that, while occasionally cosmetic, do not undermine the integrity of large structures. In ecosystems before cities, they carved into fallen logs, fence posts, and tree limbs. Human buildings are simply a substitute, an accidental extension of their ancestral choices. The bees' true importance is not in their woodwork, but in their role as pollinators. On balconies lined with potted plants, tomatoes, peppers, blueberries, their visits are crucial. Unlike many bees that brush against pollen passively, carpenter bees employ buzz pollination. They grip a flower's anther with their jaws, then activate their powerful thoracic flight muscles without taking off. The rapid vibration shakes pollen loose from tightly sealed pores, releasing it in a burst that coats the bee's body. This vibration operates at a frequency tuned precisely for the flower's anatomy, a mechanical key unlocking nutrients that would otherwise remain sealed. For plants such as tomatoes and blueberries, buzz pollination is not just advantageous, it is essential. Without it, fruit yield drops dramatically. To witness this behavior is to hear it as much as see it. A low, resonant hum fills the air as the bee clamps down and vibrates. Dust-like clouds of yellow pollen erupt, clinging to its dense hairs. The bee then moves on, transferring grains between blossoms, ensuring fertilization. On balconies where potted vegetables grow, carpenter bees perform a service often invisible to those harvesting the fruits weeks later. A balcony railing may house their brood, but a balcony garden thrives because of their foraging. Still, their presence provokes unease. The males, conspicuous in their hovering patrols near nest entrances, often approach intruders with aggressive speed. Their flight paths are direct, their movements insistent, as if warning away threats with territorial zeal. Yet here lies one of nature's small ironies. The males cannot sting. Their bluster is pure bluff, a display meant to intimidate without actual weaponry. The females, by contrast, do possess a sting, but they are reluctant to use it, reserving it for direct threats or handling. The supposed menace of carpenter bees, feared by many city dwellers, is more a performance of defense than a reality of danger. The choice of wood, too, reflects evolutionary precision. Carpenter bees almost always select soft, weathered timber, often unpainted or untreated, where their mandibles can penetrate efficiently. Paint or varnish deters them, not through chemical toxicity, but through physical resistance. The smooth, hardened surfaces offer no purchase for excavation. In this way, human interventions can redirect their choices without harm. Painted wood remains intact, while unpainted sections become preferred sites. In unmanaged corners of the city, in fences, railings, and abandoned sheds, the bees find their sanctuaries. Each spring, adults emerge from the very tunnels where they were reared, gnawing through the partitions their mother once sealed. Males appear first, congregating around nesting sites, waiting for females to emerge. Courtship is a sequence of hovering flights and short chases, an aerial ballet over the wood grain. Once mated, females begin the cycle anew, expanding existing galleries or carving fresh tunnels. Over years, a single beam of wood may contain multiple generations, layered like pages of a book, each gallery recording the persistence of lineage. In the city, this cycle plays out in miniature ecosystems on balconies and terraces. The railing becomes both home and nursery. Flowering pots provide foraging grounds. Even distant parks contribute nectar sources within the bees' range. Their presence weaves together fragments of green space, stitching balcony gardens, roadside weeds, and urban parks into a connected pollination network. Few residents realize that their tomatoes and blueberries benefit directly from the unseen labor of the carpenter bees, nesting in the same railing they may one day consider repairing. Seen more broadly, carpenter bees embody an essential principle of urban ecology, the ability of wild organisms to adapt ancient behaviors to modern structures. Their tunneling reflects a lineage older than human architecture, yet it continues unbroken in the beams and rails of our cities. Their pollination ensures fruit for both humans and wildlife, linking their survival with ours. Their supposed aggression hides a harmless bluff, reminding us that perception often distorts reality. And their selective wood use dispels myths of destruction, revealing a balance between necessity and restraint. As the sun sets, the balcony grows quiet. The circular hole in the railing remains, a tiny doorway into another world. Inside, larvae rest upon their pollen bread, sealed behind partitions their mother crafted with unerring care. Outside, a male hovers briefly, buzzing in short arcs before retreating into the evening air. To most who pass, the hole is nothing, a blemish in the wood. But to those who look closer, it is evidence of an ancient architect at work, a solitary builder who transforms forgotten corners of the city into a cradle for the next generation. In the story of the urban wild, the carpenter bee is both builder and pollinator, a creature that bridges human structures and natural cycles. Its round doorways are signatures not of damage, but of persistence. On balconies and railings, in old posts and beams, it leaves behind not scars but symbols, marks of life continuing to carve its place even in the heart of the city. In a quiet corner of an urban courtyard, an ornamental rosebush leans over the edge of a weathered fence. Its blossoms, cultivated for beauty, mask an ongoing battle beneath the leaves. To the casual observer, roses in the city are symbols of decoration, trimmed and shaped into controlled perfection. But where there is plant life, there is consumption. Aphids, soft-bodied and relentless, crowd along the tender stems, their needle-like mouthparts piercing the plant's veins. They siphon sap in steady streams, draining vitality while excreting droplets of sugary honeydew that glisten in the evening sun. The infestation grows unnoticed until leaves begin to curl, buds fail to open, and the plant weakens. Yet here, in the midst of this feeding frenzy, a small predator prepares to intervene. The ladybug, brightly patterned in red and black, is among the most recognized of all insects. Its rounded form and vivid coloration have long symbolized charm and good fortune in human cultures. But beneath this familiar appearance lies a voracious hunter. The ladybug is not a creature of gentle aesthetics. It is an apex predator in miniature, a specialist in controlling outbreaks of aphids across gardens, farms, and wild landscapes. Its role in the city is no different. Where roses, tomatoes, and milkweed attract swarms of sap-feeding insects, the ladybug follows, becoming both gardener's ally and aphid's worst nightmare. The hunt, however, is not led only by the adult. Far more deadly is the larva, a creature that looks almost alien when compared to the iconic dome-shaped beetle. Ladybug larvae resemble spiny alligators in miniature, elongated bodies dotted with ridges, bristles, and mottled patterns of black and orange. They lack the polished charm of the adult form but compensate with ruthless efficiency. A single larva can consume dozens of aphids in a single day, far surpassing the hunting capacity of its parent. On the rosebush stem, one such larva patrols deliberately, its hooked jaws snapping shut on a feeding aphid, lifting the soft body from the plant and piercing it with precision. The victim is drained swiftly, discarded, and replaced with another. For weeks, this larval stage represents the apex of the ladybug's predatory impact, regulating aphid populations before they can overwhelm the plant entirely. The strategy is not random consumption but adaptive hunting. Aphids, despite their fragility, possess their own defenses. Some species release alarm pheromones when attacked, triggering nearby individuals to scatter or drop from the plant. Others reproduce parthenogenetically, producing clones at extraordinary speed, effectively overwhelming predators through sheer numbers. the ladybug counters with persistence and mobility. Unlike ants that specialize in protecting aphids in exchange for honeydew, ladybug larvae patrol without pause, consuming steadily until the balance tips. For gardeners, the sight of a single larva on a rose stem is a sign that nature's pest control is already in motion, hidden in plain view. The adult ladybug continues this work, but adds another layer of defense. Its bright coloration is not decorative but aposematic, a warning advertisement to would-be predators. Red and black signal toxicity, and the ladybug enforces this claim with chemical weaponry. When threatened, it engages in reflex bleeding, exuding droplets of yellow fluid from its leg joints. This fluid contains alkaloid toxins that deter birds, frogs, and even ants from making a meal of the beetle. To many predators, the foul taste ensures that the ladybug's warning colors are remembered, reinforcing the effectiveness of its aposematic display. In an urban setting where sparrows, starlings, and ants patrol gardens, this defense proves essential for survival. Yet the ladybug's life is not confined to the growing season. As autumn advances and as aphid numbers decline, the beetles prepare for a different survival strategy. In temperate regions, ladybugs enter diapause, a state of suspended development akin to hibernation. They seek sheltered spaces, under bark within leaf litter, or in the city, within the warm cracks of brick walls and apartment siding. Sometimes hundreds or even thousands of individuals cluster together, forming dense aggregations that insulate against the cold. For homeowners, this can mean unexpected swarms gathering near window frames or attic corners, their red and black shells contrasting sharply with white paint. Though often unwelcome, these clusters represent a natural adaptation, the beetles surviving winter by leveraging the heat-retaining structures humans build. This seasonal behavior connects the ladybug directly to urban architecture. The warmth of walls facing the afternoon sun, the narrow crevices of roof lines, and the sheltered corners of balconies all provide microhabitats that mimic natural overwintering sites. Here, chemical cues play a critical role. Ladybugs release aggregation pheromones that attract others of their species, ensuring that clusters form in the same location year after year. What begins as a handful of beetles in a window frame may grow into a colony of hundreds by winter's peak. When spring arrives, the dispersal of these overwintered survivors ensures that city gardens once again receive their frontline defenders against aphids. From a practical perspective, the ladybug's presence is a reminder that urban gardens thrive when patches of wildness are allowed to remain. In a city where manicured lawns and pesticide treatments dominate, the removal of habitat can reduce beneficial insects just as effectively as it reduces pests. Ladybugs require aphids for food, but they also need places to overwinter, flowers for nectar, and shrubs to support their life cycle. By leaving a patch of weeds, a strip of unmown grass, or a corner of dense vegetation, gardeners create microhabitats that sustain not only ladybugs, but entire networks of urban biodiversity. In return, these predators perform pest control services without cost, chemical residue, or unintended ecological damage. The balance is delicate. Excessive pesticide use disrupts it, killing aphids but also the very predators that would regulate them naturally. In contrast, those who allow a measure of natural infestation, who tolerate a few clusters of aphids, provide the food source necessary to sustain ladybugs. Over time, the system regulates itself, with predator and prey locked in cycles that mirror those found in larger ecosystems. The rosebush becomes not just a decorative plant, but a microcosm of ecological negotiation, its health tied directly to the invisible work of beetles and larvae. In this light, the ladybug ceases to be a mere symbol of charm. It becomes an essential participant in the survival of plants within the city. Its life cycle, egg, larva, pupa, and adult, reflects a balance of strategies: rapid consumption during the larval stage, chemical defenses and visual warning in adulthood, and communal survival through diapause in winter. Each phase addresses a different ecological challenge, ensuring continuity across seasons and environments. As evening falls, the rosebush glimmers with dew, and the aphid colony continues its relentless feeding. But among them, a spiny larva prowls, its jaws busy with the work of predation. Higher up, a red and black adult beetle grips a stem, wings folded, ready to take flight to the next patch of infestation. In a month's time, both forms will have played their part in reducing the aphid population, restoring balance to the garden. And when winter arrives, when the rosebush stands bare and dormant, the ladybugs will not vanish. They will cluster along warm walls, huddled in hidden crevices of the very buildings humans inhabit, waiting patiently for the return of spring. Their presence on the rose stem is thus only one chapter in a longer story, a story of adaptation, resilience, and the quiet but powerful role of predators in the urban wild. In the shaded corner of a small courtyard, a fig tree stretches its broad leaves over a mosaic of cracked paving stones. The air is thick with late summer warmth, and dew beads along the leathery foliage, catching stray shafts of sunlight that filter between nearby balconies. To most passers-by, the tree is nothing more than an ornamental relic, its fruit half-ripened, its branches occasionally visited by sparrows or the probing antennae of ants. Yet resting on the underside of one broad leaf is a creature that embodies both subtle elegance and stubborn resilience. Flat-bodied, angular, and adorned in muted greens that blend perfectly with the leaf veins, a shieldbug waits. The shieldbug earns its name from its distinctive wedge-shaped body, a form that resembles a miniature shield pressed flat against its host plant. This body plan is not simply aesthetic, it is a functional defense against predation. When sparrows or tits sweep through the foliage in search of insects, their beaks often slide harmlessly across the bug's angular carapace. The wedge shape, reinforced with hardened cuticle plates, makes it difficult to grasp or pierce. Unlike the soft-bodied aphid or caterpillar, the shieldbug presents a formidable obstacle, a package of hard geometry that resists easy consumption. Still, armor alone does not guarantee survival. The shieldbug carries a secondary line of defense that has defined its evolutionary success. Along the underside of its thorax lie paired stink glands capable of producing volatile chemicals. When threatened, the bug can release these compounds in a sudden spray, a fine atomized mist that functions both as a deterrent and as a signal. To predators, the chemicals smell and taste acrid, clinging to feathers and mouthparts in a way that discourages further attack. To other shieldbugs, the emission serves as an alarm, alerting neighbors to imminent danger. In this way, the stink is both shield and message, a multi-purpose adaptation that ensures the survival not only of the individual, but also of the population clustered across the same fig tree. The chemistry is intricate. The secretions contain aldehydes and alkanes, compounds that volatilize quickly in warm air, dispersing efficiently through the microclimate of leaves and stems. For a bird that takes a single peck, the experience is unpleasant enough to create long-term avoidance. Many insect-eating birds learn to recognize the distinct silhouette of a shieldbug and leave it untouched. For the bug, this means that survival does not always depend on immediate defense. Sometimes, the memory of a failed predation attempt is as valuable as armor. The shieldbug's feeding strategy, though less visible, is equally remarkable. Hidden within its rostrum are slender stylets, needle-like mouthparts adapted to pierce plant tissues. Unlike chewing insects that leave visible holes, shieldbugs tap seeds, fruits, and leaves from within, drawing out nutrients through narrow channels. On the fig tree, they probe developing seeds and soft tissues, their stylets penetrating with surgical precision. The act is slow, nearly imperceptible but constant. In this way, the shieldbug derives sustenance without overtly destroying its host. To the casual gardener, the damage may appear as small blemishes or hardened spots on fruit, evidence of unseen feeding that rarely compromises the plant's survival but underscores the insect's persistent presence. Color plays a vital role in the bug's yearly cycle. In spring, when the fig leaves unfurl, shieldbugs often display bright, fresh greens that merge seamlessly with new foliage. Their camouflage is exact, matching hue and tone to the young leaves they inhabit. As summer progresses, individuals may shift toward yellows or browns, reflecting both seasonal wear and adaptive change. By autumn, many shieldbugs darken further, preparing for the colder months. These seasonal morphs are not simply decorative, but serve as a form of adaptive concealment, ensuring camouflage against the shifting palette of vegetation. In urban spaces, where fig leaves turn golden and nearby weeds dry into brittle stalks, the shieldbug's changing colors allow it to remain undetected by both avian predators and human observers. Another adaptation lies within the very surface of the shieldbug's cuticle. Close inspection under magnification reveals a microstructure that causes water droplets to bead and roll away. Much like the lotus leaf effect, the cuticle sheds dew with remarkable efficiency, keeping the insect dry and reducing the growth of microbial films. In the early morning, when dew coats every surface of the garden, the shieldbug remains pristine, its armor glistening for only a moment before droplets slide away in perfect spheres. In slow motion, the process resembles self-cleaning paint, the insect's surface engineered by evolution to resist contamination. For a creature that lives in close contact with soil, leaves, and pollen, this hydrophobic quality is no trivial matter. It minimizes the weight of water, reduces disease risk, and allows the bug to move freely even in damp conditions. The city environment introduces unique challenges and opportunities for shieldbugs. Artificial light can confuse their seasonal cycles, drawing them to illuminated windows at night or disrupting diapause timing. Urban heat islands extend their active season, allowing populations to feed later into autumn than in surrounding rural areas. At the same time, city gardens and balcony plants provide concentrated feeding grounds. Potted tomatoes, peppers, beans, and figs become attractive hosts, their nutrient-rich tissues offering abundant food. Thus, while some gardeners view shieldbugs as pests for the blemishes they leave, their survival within the urban fabric illustrates a broader truth. Cities do not extinguish ecological interactions, but concentrate and reshape them. Predator-prey relationships remain central to their story. Birds may avoid them, but not all enemies are deterred. Assassin bugs, larger predatory hemipterans, can pierce shieldbug armor with their own stylets, injecting enzymes that liquefy tissue from within. Parasitic wasps also exploit shieldbugs, laying eggs inside their bodies that eventually consume them from within. Even ants, often deterred by the stink glands, may overwhelm nymphs in numbers, dismembering the soft-bodied young before their armor hardens. Survival, then, is a constant negotiation. Not absolute safety, but a balance between deterrence, resilience, and reproductive success. Nymphs, the immature forms of shieldbugs, provide another perspective on adaptation. Unlike the winged adults, nymphs pass through several molts, gradually acquiring their shield-like form. Early instars often display striking colors, bright oranges, reds, or blacks, that serve as aposematic signals despite their vulnerability. These warning colors announce toxicity even before the armor has fully formed, buying survival time in a dangerous stage of life. Over successive molts, their shape flattens, their hues shift, and the iconic shield emerges. Watching a cohort of nymphs mature on a single fig leaf is to witness an evolutionary strategy unfold, each stage tailored for the hazards of its moment. By late autumn, shieldbugs seek shelter for winter. Like ladybugs, many enter diapause, clustering beneath bark, within leaf litter, or in sheltered crevices of human structures. Apartment walls, window frames, and even attic spaces can serve as refuges where dozens may gather. Here they wait in suspended stillness, their metabolism slowed, their defenses dormant. Only when spring warmth returns do they disperse, recolonizing plants and resuming the cycle of feeding, mating, and reproduction. For city dwellers, their sudden appearance in spring can be startling, a reminder that the hidden populations of winter were not absent, only waiting. In the larger picture, the shieldbug embodies resilience in the urban wild. It is not the most beloved insect, lacking the cultural charm of the ladybug or the industrious reputation of bees. Yet its adaptations, wedge armor, chemical sprays, seasonal morphs, and water-shedding cuticle reveal a creature finely tuned to survival in a world shaped by both plants and predators. On the fig leaf, where dew slides away and sunlight filters through green veins, the shieldbug remains motionless, a sentinel of persistence. Its armor deflects attacks, its glands repel threats, and its stylets quietly draw sustenance from seeds and fruit. To the gardener, it may be a nuisance, marking figs with blemishes and peppers with pinpricks. To the ecologist, it is an emblem of adaptation, a survivor whose presence signals the continuity of ancient strategies within modern cities. And to the camera's lens, in the slow-motion roll of dew off its surface, it is a marvel of natural engineering, a reminder that even the smallest creatures carry technologies more sophisticated than our own. On a crisp spring morning, when the city still carries the chill of night, but the sun has begun to pour warmth across brick and stone, clusters of red and black begin to appear. At first, they seem like scattered flecks of paint on the base of a wall, a random spattering of color where the mortar has cracked. Step closer, however, and the pattern reveals itself. Dozens of firebugs gather in tight groups, their bodies pressed together against the heated surface of a courtyard wall. The geometry of their wings, black triangles laid across scarlet shells, creates a mosaic that is both striking and unmistakable. To the casual pedestrian, the congregation looks almost ceremonial. But these gatherings are not rituals in the human sense. They are an act of survival, thermoregulation through aggregation. Firebugs, like all insects, are ectothermic. They do not produce their own internal heat, but rely on the environment to set the tempo of their metabolism. By clustering on sun-warmed walls and sidewalks, they amplify the effect of the morning light. The combined mass of bodies absorbs heat more efficiently, reducing the time it takes for each individual to reach its active state. For creatures that must fly, mate, and forage within narrow seasonal windows, every degree of warmth is precious. The wall itself plays a role, storing the sun's energy like a battery. Urban surfaces such as concrete and brick retain heat far more effectively than soil or vegetation, creating microclimates that insects exploit. Where human eyes see only parking lots and buildings, firebugs detect gradients of warmth, surfaces that extend their active hours beyond what the surrounding air alone would allow. In this way, the very materials of the city become allies, providing thermal refuges that substitute for sunlit stones and tree trunks in natural habitats. Once warmed, the bugs disperse with deliberate slowness across the pavement and into nearby patches of soil and leaf litter. Their diet reflects a dual strategy of scavenging and opportunism. Firebugs specialize in feeding on seeds, particularly those of linden trees, which line many urban boulevards. Fallen pods crushed by car tires or scattered across sidewalks provide abundant nutrition. With their piercing, sucking mouthparts, the bugs tap into the seeds, extracting oils and proteins. The feeding leaves behind husks, dry and hollow, that litter the ground like discarded shells. In this role, firebugs serve as recyclers, converting fallen plant matter into energy that circulates back through the food web. Despite their abundance, firebugs are often misunderstood. Their vivid coloration and conspicuous gatherings lead many to assume they are harmful, venomous, or even parasitic. In reality, they are harmless to humans. They do not bite, they do not sting, and they do not damage wooden structures or fabrics. Their diet is plant-based, their interest focused almost exclusively on seeds and decaying plant tissues. Far from being pests, they contribute to the natural cleaning of city spaces, processing the detritus that falls unseen in gutters and beneath parked cars. Their role may be humble, but it is essential, one more cog in the machinery of urban ecology. In spring and summer, their gatherings also become stages for reproduction. Firebugs are well known for their prolonged mating behavior, often coupling for hours or even days. During this time, the male and female remain joined end to end, walking in tandem across sidewalks and walls. To human eyes, the sight is almost comical. Two beetle-like insects moving clumsily in opposite directions, tethered by their reproductive organs, navigating obstacles with awkward determination. Yet this prolonged union is not without purpose. The male remains attached to ensure paternity, guarding the female from other suitors while fertilization completes. Such long coupling times may appear excessive, but in evolutionary terms, they represent a strategy to maximize reproductive success in crowded environments. The tandem walk has ecological consequences beyond reproduction. Joined pairs are more vulnerable to predation, their mobility compromised. Birds or ants that might ignore a single firebug may take advantage of the awkwardly tethered duo. Yet the bugs persist with the strategy, the benefits outweighing the risks. In this, firebugs remind us that evolution is a game of trade-offs. No adaptation is perfect, only sufficient to pass genes forward under prevailing conditions. As summer progresses, the bright red cohorts spread across sidewalks, planters, and the bases of trees. Nymphs, the immature stages of firebugs, cluster together in dense groups. Unlike adults, which bear fully developed wings, nymphs are smaller, softer, and wingless, their coloration less striking but still patterned in red and black. They pass through several molts before reaching maturity, each stage incrementally harder and more defined. The clustering of nymphs around seed pods reflects both vulnerability and necessity. By remaining in groups, they reduce predation pressure, their warning colors magnified by sheer numbers. The collective presence announces toxicity to birds and lizards, discouraging attacks before they occur. That coloration, the bold red and black pattern, is itself a survival advertisement. Known as aposematism, it signals that the insect is unpalatable. The compounds within firebug tissues, derived in part from their diet of seeds, produce a bitter flavor that predators quickly learn to avoid. One taste is often enough for a bird to remember the association, ensuring that future encounters end before they begin. In this way, the firebug's visibility becomes its defense. It does not hide in crevices or mimic leaves. Instead, it declares its presence openly, relying on the honesty of its colors to deter threats. By autumn, the life cycle turns toward preparation for overwintering. Firebugs, unlike migratory species, remain local. They seek shelter in leaf litter, under bark, or within soil cracks at the bases of walls and sidewalks. Here they huddle, conserving energy, surviving the frost in dormancy until spring warmth calls them back to the surfaces. In urban environments, the thermal buffering of concrete and brick improves their chances, extending survival even through harsh winters. The cycle of aggregation, reproduction, feeding, and retreat repeats annually, uninterrupted despite the turbulence of human activity. For the gardener, firebugs are more companion than adversary. They pose no threat to crops or ornamentals, and their seed scavenging helps clear fallen debris that would otherwise accumulate. For the ecologist, they represent an example of how even the most ordinary insects adapt to the city's microclimates, finding warmth in walls, food in fallen seeds, and safety in numbers. For the attentive observer, they are a spectacle of geometry and color, a reminder that beauty in nature often arises not from rarity, but from patterns repeated across time and space. When seen basking on a sunlit wall, their clusters might at first appear lifeless, static. Yet in reality, each insect is a participant in a subtle negotiation with its environment, absorbing heat, conserving energy, and preparing for the tasks of feeding and reproduction. Their apparent stillness masks the fact that they are finely tuned to rhythms of temperature, light, and season. Even in the heart of a city, amid parked cars and concrete facades, they thrive by bending these rhythms to their advantage. As the day warms, the firebugs begin to disperse, leaving behind only faint marks where their bodies pressed against the wall. To the casual eye, nothing remains but brick and shadow. Yet the courtyard ecosystem has been shaped by their presence. Seeds consumed, predators deterred, new generations conceived during tandem walks across the pavement. Their lives unfold entirely within the overlooked margins of human spaces, transforming sidewalks and parking lots into habitats as valid as meadows or forests. In the story of the urban wild, the firebug is a quiet constant. Its red and black pattern is both signal and shield, its gatherings a demonstration of collective resilience. Against the backdrop of city life, it reminds us that survival is not always hidden or fierce. Sometimes it takes the form of simple persistence, insects sunbathing on walls, harvesting seeds from sidewalks, and continuing their cycles year after year, right under our feet. Beneath the overhang of a suburban roof, where peeling paint and forgotten cobwebs mark the line between shelter and open air, hangs a structure that seems fragile at first glance. A greyish paper comb, no larger than a clenched fist, clings to the underside of the eaves. Its hexagonal chambers, neat and uniform, open downward like an array of miniature cells. At dawn, when the light falls sideways across the wall, the comb glows faintly, as though each layer were translucent. To many who live beneath these eaves, the nest is a source of unease. Yet to the wasps that built it, the structure is a city, an organized, living extension of their bodies and behaviors. The nest begins modestly. A solitary queen, having survived the winter in hibernation beneath bark or in a wall crevice, emerges in spring with a single mission: to found a colony. Her first task is architectural. She scrapes wood fibers from fences, siding, or dried twigs, chewing them into a pulp softened with saliva. The fibers bond together into a paper-like substance that she molds into the first stalk and cells of her comb. Suspended by a single narrow stem, the structure sways delicately, yet resists collapse. The queen lays her first eggs in these cells, tending them alone until they hatch into larvae. From that point, the nest begins to grow not by the queen's effort alone, but through the labor of her offspring. Time-lapse observation reveals the pace of construction. Workers emerge and take up their tasks, jaws rasping fibers from dead wood, returning with pellets of pulp that they knead and shape with astonishing precision. Cell after cell is added, the comb expanding in circular symmetry. Unlike the wax combs of honeybees, which are enclosed, wasp nests remain open, their hexagons exposed to the air. The paper material is lighter and less insulating than wax, yet perfectly suited to the wasp's needs. It is breathable, easily repaired, and strong enough to hold brood through weeks of development. The nest is not simply a shelter, it is an active environment maintained by constant regulation. Temperature in particular must remain stable. On hot summer days when sunlight strikes the eaves, workers fan their wings in coordinated effort, creating drafts that cool the brood chambers. Their collective fanning mirrors the actions of bees, but with the open architecture of paper rather than wax. When conditions turn cool, the bodies of workers press together, shielding developing larvae with living insulation. Thermoregulation is not an abstract principle here, but a constant negotiation, a choreography of wings and bodies that keeps the next generation alive. The division of labor extends beyond nest maintenance. Foraging duties split along a striking nutritional divide. Larvae require protein to grow, the raw material for building tissues. Adults, by contrast, depend on sugars, which provide immediate energy for flight and work. This split creates a cycle of exchange between life stages. Foragers hunt caterpillars, flies, and other soft-bodied insects, subduing them with swift strikes and powerful mandibles. They chew the prey into pulp and deliver it to the larvae, who consume it directly. In return, the larvae secrete droplets of sugary liquid from their mouths, a form of trophallaxis that adults lap eagerly. Thus, the larvae become both consumers and providers, converting animal protein into a carbohydrate reward that sustains their caretakers. The nest functions as an economy where nutrition flows in both directions, binding generations into interdependence. The hunt for protein provides one of the most dramatic scenes of wasp behavior. On a nearby leaf, a caterpillar stretches along a stem, its camouflage blending with the greenery. A forager approaches silently, guided by movement and chemical cues. In a burst of motion, it seizes the caterpillar with hooked legs, delivering a paralyzing bite. The struggle is brief but decisive. With serrated mandibles, the wasp begins to strip away soft tissue, carving the body into manageable chunks. Each piece is rolled into a pliable ball of meat, carried back to the nest like a parcel. The efficiency is surgical, the process repeated dozens of times a day as workers provision their brood. To gardeners, this behavior is both beneficial and unsettling. Caterpillars that might devastate a tomato patch vanish into the paper city, their bodies converted into the growth of the colony. The social structure of the nest is maintained through chemical communication. Pheromones govern recognition, hierarchy, and alarm. Of these, alarm pheromones are the most notorious. When a nest is disturbed, when a hand brushes too close, or when a swat strikes a worker, the agitated wasp releases chemical signals that spread instantly through the colony. The response is not random chaos, but a coordinated defense. Within moments, dozens of workers launch from the comb, seeking the source of disturbance. One swat becomes many stings, not by coincidence, but because chemical communication transforms individual danger into collective action. This is why casual attempts to drive wasps away often escalate conflict rather than resolve it. To the colony, the vibration of the nest and the scent of alarm equal existential threat, and survival demands an overwhelming response. Yet aggression is not the wasp's constant state. Most of the time, the colony operates with calm precision. Foragers come and go, brood are fed, walls are repaired, and thermoregulation continues. Disturbance triggers defense, but peace sustains growth. This duality, vulnerability of the nest and ferocity of the colony, defines wasp survival strategy. The nest's exposed paper walls cannot repel predators, but the colony's capacity for coordinated defense ensures that few dare to test it more than once. Seasonality shapes the arc of the colony's life. Through spring and summer, the population swells, the comb expanding layer upon layer until hundreds of cells hang beneath the eaves. By late summer, the queen slows her egg-laying, and a new generation of reproductives emerges, males and fertile females destined not to labor, but to mate. After coupling in flight, males die and fertilized females disperse to seek winter refuges. The old queen and her workers perish with the first frosts, leaving behind an empty paper husk that slowly disintegrates. The colony is not immortal. It is annual, beginning anew each spring when overwintered queens restart the cycle. The abandoned combs, fragile and grey, remain for months as relics, reminders of the vibrant city once alive beneath the eaves. In the context of urban life, wasps embody contradiction. They are feared for their stings, yet vital as predators of crop pests. They are unwelcome guests at picnics, drawn by sugary drinks, yet indispensable recyclers of protein that would otherwise proliferate unchecked. Their nests, so delicate that a fingertip can crush them, contain societies that rival larger animals in organization and efficiency. They embody the principle that danger and utility often coexist, bound together in the same evolutionary design. For the attentive observer, the paper city offers endless detail. Watch the synchronized wing fanning that cools the brood in midsummer heat. Observe the precise layering of pulp that thickens walls after rain. Note the rhythm of foragers returning, each carrying a different prize, one with caterpillar flesh, another with droplets of nectar stolen from a flower. Each act contributes to the collective, each individual a single cell in the organism of the colony. Beneath the eaves, life hums in hidden order. The wasp's paper city is fragile, temporary, and often feared. Yet it is also a triumph of collective engineering, a society built from chewed wood and guided by chemistry, one that endures not through permanence, but through renewal. Year after year, the cycle resumes, and the eaves of houses become the stage for one of the most intricate dramas of the urban wild. After a spring rain, the gutters along the edge of a city street transform into a temporary chain of ponds. Between fragments of asphalt and scattered leaves, shallow water collects, reflecting the distorted neon of shopfront signs and the muted glow of traffic lights. To most passers-by, these puddles are trivial, destined to evaporate with the day's rising heat. Yet for one particular kind of insect, these fleeting pools are entire hunting grounds, stages of courtship, and arenas of survival. Skimming effortlessly across the surface, their shadows gliding under the shimmer of reflected light, water striders patrol the margins of the urban wild. The ability of the water strider to remain atop the water is one of nature's most elegant feats. Its long, slender legs never pierce the surface. Instead, they rest lightly, each contact point creating a tiny depression, a meniscus dimple that bends but does not break. This feat is made possible by microstructures on the legs themselves. Each is covered with thousands of hydrophobic hairs, so fine that water cannot adhere. The effect is not merely water resistance, but a near-perfect exclusion of liquid. Air is trapped between the hairs, rendering the legs buoyant, as if each were resting on invisible stilts. Even in a shallow curbside pool, where dust and oil shimmer on the surface, the water strider maintains perfect balance, floating on a liquid mirror it never touches. These dimples are not silent impressions. Each movement across the surface generates ripples that radiate outward in concentric rings. To the human eye, they may seem trivial distortions, but to the water strider, they are language. Every vibration carries information. A struggling insect produces a pattern distinct from that of a drifting leaf. The landing of another strider sends ripples of a different frequency than those of a predator's strike. Water striders interpret these cues with astonishing sensitivity, distinguishing prey, rivals, and mates through the geometry of water waves. Courtship unfolds through this medium. Males send rhythmic ripple signals that travel across the surface, sequences of pulses that identify species and intent. To a female resting meters away on the same puddle, these signals are a declaration of presence and a request for attention. Rival males respond with their own patterns, and a silent competition begins, the surface of the puddle alive with coded vibrations. Where birds display plumage and spiders dance across silk, water striders communicate in ripples, their courtship invisible to all but the trained observer. Threats are also broadcast in this way. When a predator approaches, a rapid burst of ripples alerts others, triggering evasive movement. The colony scatters, leaping across the surface with explosive power. Water striders are not delicate creatures drifting passively on water. They are athletes of momentum. Their legs strike the surface at precise angles, using hydrodynamic drag to propel forward. Each jump is a controlled interaction between pressure and resistance, their bodies calibrated to extract maximum thrust from minimal force. The result is acceleration across the puddle so swift that predators often miss their strike entirely. Prey capture provides another spectacle. A mosquito, newly emerged from the larval stage, hovers above the puddle, its wings flashing silver under neon reflections. It dips too low, one leg brushing the surface film. Instantly, the water strider detects the disturbance. Ripples travel outward, announcing the presence of vulnerable prey. In less than a second, the strider darts forward, its forelegs seizing the mosquito before it can escape. The victim is subdued not with venom or stings, but with piercing mouthparts that siphon out bodily fluids. The struggle is short, the meal efficient. For city dwellers plagued by mosquitoes, the water strider is an unsung ally, intercepting hosts of the very insects that trouble human skin in the evening air. Beyond hunting, the water strider must contend with the instability of its environment. Puddles are impermanent. Evaporation, traffic, or new rainfall alter their boundaries daily. To survive, striders must constantly patrol, moving from pool to pool, seeking new surfaces when old ones vanish. Their dispersal is aided by wings, though not all individuals are equally endowed. Many species of water striders produce both winged and wingless forms, a strategy known as wing polymorphism. Winged individuals can colonize new habitats, while wingless ones invest energy into reproduction rather than flight. The balance shifts depending on conditions. In unstable, temporary pools, more winged forms appear. In stable ponds, wingless forms dominate. Even in the artificial world of parking lots and gutters, this evolutionary flexibility persists, ensuring that populations endure despite the unpredictability of urban water. Another adaptation is their ability to climb the meniscus itself. While it seems impossible for a creature bound to the surface to ascend vertical obstacles, water striders can exploit the curved edge of water rising against a leaf or wall. By walking toward the meniscus, they climb against gravity, their legs gripping the slope of surface tension like mountaineers scaling ice. In a gutterside puddle, this behavior allows a strider to reach the stem of a fallen leaf and ascend to safety when conditions threaten. To the eye, it appears as though the insect defies gravity, walking uphill on liquid glass until it steps seamlessly onto solid matter. City nights bring their own transformations. Under artificial lights, the puddles gleam with reflections, and the striders continue their patrols. Neon signs ripple across their surfaces, and moths or midges drawn to the glow often meet their end at the water's edge. For the striders, human light creates opportunities no different than those in natural moonlight. Illumination that alters insect behavior, funneling prey into their reach. The reflection of red and green neon, fractured by ripples and dimples, creates a surreal scene where the insects glide across a canvas of color while pursuing their practical tasks of hunting and reproduction. Despite their elegance, water striders are not invulnerable. Fish in larger ponds rise to the surface, their mouths breaking the film in sudden gulps. Spiders adapted to aquatic margins build silk traps that ensnare unwary striders. Birds dip their beaks with lethal precision. Even in the relative safety of city puddles, ants pose a threat, ambushing striders stranded near the edge. Survival is never absolute. It is a negotiation of advantages, and the strider's ability to read ripples and exploit surface tension is merely one among countless adaptations in the ongoing contest of predator and prey. For urban ecology, water striders illustrate an essential truth, that even the most transient environments are colonized, studied, and used. What evaporates by afternoon can still serve as a habitat, however briefly, for creatures exquisitely adapted to seize opportunity. Each puddle is a miniature ecosystem, complete with predators, prey, and complex communication systems. To those who rush past, these details remain invisible. To the striders, they are the difference between survival and death, reproduction and extinction. As the night deepens, one strider makes its way toward the edge of the puddle. The water curves upward against the stem of a fallen leaf, forming a meniscus slope. With deliberate steps, it begins the ascent. The dimples at its feet grip the invisible incline, each movement defying the logic of gravity and liquid. Slowly, it reaches the tip of the leaf, standing at last on solid ground, silhouetted against the neon reflection of the street. To us, it is an insect leaving a puddle. To the strider, it is an ancient ritual repeated in a new landscape, the mastery of surface tension as both path and refuge, a skill that has carried its lineage through millions of years and now serves it equally well in the gutters of the modern city. In late summer, when the air above the city begins to shimmer with heat and the first hints of autumn lie hidden in the slant of light, delicate travelers pass through unnoticed. Monarch butterflies, their wings painted in deep orange veined with black and edged in white, drift above avenues, parking lots, and manicured lawns. To most observers, they are simply fragile ornaments of the season, ephemeral flashes that brighten parks and gardens. Yet each monarch is a voyager on a continental journey, navigating not only forests and fields, but also the glass and concrete labyrinths of human cities. For them, the metropolis is not a barrier, but a landscape of opportunities and hazards, a place where survival hinges on both ancient instincts and new accommodations. The migration of monarchs is one of the most extraordinary feats in the insect world. Each year, populations in North America embark on a journey spanning thousands of kilometers, moving from summer breeding grounds in temperate regions to overwintering sites far to the south. What makes the migration astonishing is not simply its scale, but the fact that no individual completes the full circuit. The butterflies that leave the northern reaches in autumn are several generations removed from those that made the journey northward in spring. Yet they follow the same routes with uncanny accuracy, guided by internal compasses encoded in their biology. Central to this navigation is the monarch's sun compass. By orienting their flight according to the position of the sun, the butterflies maintain a consistent southward direction over immense distances. But the sun moves across the sky, and to rely on it alone would invite confusion. Monarchs solve this by integrating the sun compass with a circadian clock, an internal timing mechanism that adjusts their orientation as the sun shifts. Specialized neurons in their antennae detect light and synchronize the clock with environmental cues, ensuring that even as the sun arcs overhead, the butterfly's trajectory remains steady. Should cloud cover obscure the sun, monarchs possess an additional safeguard: sensitivity to the Earth's magnetic field, a backup compass that keeps them on course when the sky offers no guidance. These navigation tools are tested in urban settings, where reflective glass, artificial lighting, and heat distortions create confusing visual fields. Yet monarchs still pass through, adjusting their flight paths, pausing when needed, and continuing onward. To them, the city is not an obstacle, but a patchwork of potential fuel stations. Parks, roadside verges, and even balcony planters provide critical nectar sources. Without these refueling sites, the journey would falter. Every flower matters, from the milkweed in a community garden to the wild asters sprouting at the base of a lamppost. Collectively, these fragments form an aerial highway of sustenance, sustaining migration through landscapes that would otherwise be barren expanses of steel and asphalt. Milkweed in particular holds central importance. It is not merely a nectar source, but the plant upon which monarch caterpillars feed exclusively. The leaves contain cardinalides, toxic compounds that most herbivores avoid. Monarchs, however, have evolved to tolerate and sequester these chemicals within their tissues. As a result, both caterpillars and adults become unpalatable to predators. The striking orange and black coloration of the adult monarch functions as aposematic paint, a visual warning that advertises toxicity. Birds that attempt to eat a monarch experience nausea and quickly learn to avoid the pattern in the future. The same defense that protects caterpillars on milkweed leaves carries forward into the adult's long migration, a mobile advertisement of danger that deters would-be predators from city sparrows to rural jays. Yet this evolutionary strategy depends on the presence of milkweed, and in urban landscapes, milkweed is often scarce. Lawns and managed flower beds remove it as a weed, roadside maintenance cuts it down, and herbicide use eliminates its patches. Without milkweed, monarch reproduction fails, their caterpillars deprived of the only food source they can consume. This is where urban conservation becomes crucial. When gardeners plant milkweed in balcony pots, when city planners allow roadside strips to bloom with native wildflowers, they create stepping stones along the monarch's vast highway of air. A single balcony planter in one city may seem insignificant, yet multiplied across thousands of balconies, parks, and verges, these patches become a network that sustains the migration. Scientific studies confirm the impact. Monarchs traveling through urban corridors are more likely to survive and reproduce when native wildflower strips and milkweed patches are present. These green interruptions in the grey fabric of the city become lifelines, ensuring that the butterflies can refuel and continue south. The journey is not uninterrupted flight, it is a series of stops, each one critical. In this sense, conservation in cities is not symbolic but practical. Every nectar-rich flower, every milkweed pod left to seed, contributes to the continuity of one of the most remarkable migrations on Earth. The monarch's presence in the city is also a lesson in ecological connectivity. These butterflies embody the principle that no ecosystem exists in isolation. Their journey ties together northern prairies, central farmlands, southern forests, and urban landscapes. A monarch that hovers over a city park may carry cardinalides from milkweed it fed on as a caterpillar hundreds of kilometers away. The nectar it drinks in an urban flower bed may fuel the next leg of its flight toward distant mountains. Its survival is woven into a network of habitats, both wild and human-managed, that collectively sustain its lineage across generations. Predators, too, interact with monarchs in the urban context. Birds occasionally attempt to feed on them, despite their warning colors, while spiders may ensnare them in webs strung across lampposts or fences. Ants can prey on vulnerable pupae attached to balcony railings, yet the majority of encounters end with avoidance. The monarch's defenses, both chemical and visual, remain effective in the city as they do in the countryside. In this way, the butterfly carries its evolutionary history with it, a portable shield that allows it to pass through the dangers of diverse environments. Beyond survival, monarchs play roles as pollinators. While their specialization lies in their caterpillar host plant, adult monarchs visit a wide range of flowers, transferring pollen as they feed. In city parks and community gardens, their visits contribute to the reproduction of native and cultivated plants alike. The presence of monarchs in urban spaces is thus not only a spectacle, but a functional component of local ecology. They are both travelers and workers, feeding themselves while inadvertently sustaining the plants around them. As autumn deepens, monarchs continue their southward flow, the city serving as one of many checkpoints along the way. Some pause on goldenrod patches beside highways, others rest on balcony flowers, and many continue over rooftops unseen. By winter, the survivors will cluster in dense colonies on oyamel fir trees in southern mountain forests, their wings overlapping in a living quilt that insulates against the cold. Those that rest now in city parks are part of a larger tapestry, their migration not only a natural wonder, but a process that depends on countless human choices about land use, gardening, and conservation. For the city dweller who pauses to watch a monarch drift across a park, it is easy to see fragility in their thin wings and delicate flight. Yet behind that fragility lies a history of endurance. These butterflies navigate with solar clocks and magnetic compasses, defend themselves with plant-derived toxins, and depend on a network of habitats that stretch from gardens to wild forests. They reveal that migration is not only about distance, but about connection, the joining of spaces, species, and seasons in a single flowing cycle. As one monarch hovers over a strip of milkweed planted along a roadside, the neon glow of a billboard flickers above and the rush of cars roars past. Yet the butterfly remains, probing a flower for nectar, preparing for the next stretch of its journey. Its wings flash orange against the grey of concrete, a symbol of resilience moving along highways not built of asphalt but of air. Highways traced by instinct, sun, and magnetic field, carrying it across continents, through cities, and into the forests where generations will rest before the cycle begins again.